Neither is the life ourselves.
Neither is the life ourself, the vitality, the energy which plays in the brain, nerves and body. It is a power and not the whole power of the infinite. The experience of a life force instrumentalizing matter as the foundation, source and true sum of all things, the vibrating unsteady basis of vitalism is a delusion, a half view taken for the whole, a tide on a near shore misconceived as all the ocean and its waters. The vitalist idea takes something powerful but outward for the essence. Life force is the dynamization of a consciousness which exceeds it. The consciousness is felt and acts but does not become valid to us in intelligence until we arrive at the higher term of mind, our present summit. Mind is here apparently a creation of life, but it is really the ulterior, not the ultimate, sense of life itself and what is behind it and more conscious formulation of its secret. Mind is an expression not of life, but of that of which life itself is a less luminous expression.
So he is telling us that life is not something by itself. It is not a self-existent thing. It is created. Okay? So that's what he's saying. So I'll read the summary of the previous para so that we know the continuity, what he's saying. I think this section is, as I remind you, this section is about the knowledge. Earlier, 200 pages nearly, he has been discussing the Karma Yoga, okay? The concept of sacrifice, doing everything for the divine and not for yourself. So slowly the ego disappears and you get to understand that you are not the doer. The doer is nature, universal nature. God is acting through universal nature on you. Okay? That's what you understand. So you are not the body. So now he is telling you that you are not the life. Okay? So, but I'll read the summary of the previous paragraph. The self is not the physical body. We have stated that the Supreme is related to the cosmos and the individual. The Supreme, the Transcendent, comes into the cosmos, uses cosmos to produce the physical world and the individuals. The Transcendent is one and it creates nature, which is the cosmos, and in the cosmos, through cosmos, he creates the many. So, that is the process. We have stated that the Supreme is related to the cosmos and the individual. Regarding the individual's relation with the Supreme, we find that the Supreme is man's own truest real being. Okay? So, contrast this with the relation of the universe with the Supreme, where it becomes a Brahman consciousness. Okay, so the individual real truth of the real truth and the individuality of the man is the Supreme God, okay, in his own, and he is there inside you. Okay. So, man seems to consider himself to be the body, life and mind. But these are only the outer coverings, the surface. Deep enough, in his real essence, he is the same as the Supreme. If he realizes that he is the divine. Okay? This is the only, not religion, I can't say Sanatana Dharma, which asserts that man is essentially divine. The others don't accept that. Okay? The Supreme descends into manifestation and covers himself with the sheets of body, life and mind, but sits deep inside man's being and becomes the individual soul. Okay? Truly speaking, the human soul in essence is a supreme soul, is the same, essentially the same. So, naturally, when the traditional Jnana Yoga discovers essential identity of the human soul with the self and the supreme self, it must evidently reject all other appearances that mislead. It discovers and realizes that the body, life and the mind are not the true essential self. Materialism's persistence in holding matter to be the only reality is obviously a mistake. once man realizes that he is the supreme, naturally he has to reject his body, life and mind. Matter is created by spirit. Matter is the created, not the creator. But materialism holds that matter is the creator of life and mind. Very superficially, if you see, you can't blame science because it doesn't have spiritual knowledge. But when it sees life, plants coming out of matter, out of earth, naturally they think that matter is the creator. But when you keep going higher and higher, you realize that this is a mistake. Okay? But matter, with all its created results, are nothing but symbols, representations, mere images created by mind and sense. That itself we can discuss a lot. It is a mind that is giving meaning to the sense data that is coming into your mind. Your eyes are receiving visual data from the world and sending it through nerves to the brain, and your manas is telling you what you are seeing. Okay? That is what is meant by your mind is the creator of the universe. Okay? In one sense, not in the actual sense. But matter, with all its created results, are nothing but symbols, representations, mere images created by mind and sense. They are a language, a notation, a hieroglyph, a system of symbols. It is not the original supreme reality that creates the universe and all the rest in it, including the individual. So, this you have to understand that everything in the physical world is a symbol of the divine. It is not the divine itself, but it is a symbol of the divine. Just like a photograph of a person is not the person, but it represents the person. Exactly in the same way, the universe represents the divine through symbols. Okay? So that's it. This is what he said in the previous paragraph. So he has told us that the body is not the real part of man. The real part of man is his soul. Now he comes to life. And he will tell you that life also is misrepresented as something existent by itself. It is not. It's a created thing. Neither is a life ourselves. The vitality, the energy which plays in the brain. I am reading the paragraph now, sentence by sentence. Neither is the life ourselves. The vitality, the energy which plays in the brain, nerves and body. It is there everywhere. Life, Shakti. Okay? It is a power and not the whole power of the infinite. The whole power of the infinite is Shakti at the Satchidananda level. Okay? But when it comes down, it is part of the Shakti. It's not the whole Shakti. The whole Shakti is not only up. Okay. Below here, it can be found in a very big manner in the universe. Storms, okay? The sun shining, the vast, infinite, the stars, all this is power, all the Shakti of the divine. The experience of a life force instrumentalizing matter as a foundation, source and true sum of all things, the vibrating, unsteady basis of vitalism is an illusion, a halfway, half view taken for the whole, a tide on a near shore misconceived as all the ocean and its waters. Okay? So, the scientists think that the force in the physical world is something by itself. It is something that is self-existing. It is not. It is created. Now the vitalistic idea takes something powerful but outward from the essence. What is this vitalistic idea? He is talking about Elan Vital, Bergson. Henri Bergson was a French philosopher, and he said that matter is not the only reality. Life, force seems to be the fundamental reality. I'm just giving you a brief. So the vitalistic idea takes something powerful, but outward for the essence. It is very powerful, but it is not the real truth. It's a created truth. Life force is a dynamization of a consciousness. So life is only, consciousness is superior to life. That's what Sandhu is saying. And when consciousness comes down into life, it is a dynamization of consciousness. Consciousness itself above him is static, but when that static consciousness comes down and becomes active, but then by dynamization, it becomes life. Life force is the dynamization of a consciousness which exceeds it. Consciousness is above life. It gives birth to life. That's the thing. So in other words, if it is giving birth to life, life is created. Okay? And what is creating is the Satchidananda that is creating it is creating matter, it is creating life, and also creating mind. The vitalistic idea takes something powerful but outward for the essence. Life force is a dynamization of a consciousness which exceeds it. That consciousness is felt and acts, but does not become valid to us in intelligence until we arrive at the higher term of mind, our present summit. So what he's saying in this sentence is, then it is true that consciousness is creating life, but we don't realize that. We realize it only when you go to the higher term of mind. There we see that consciousness is actually the creator of life. Okay? And life is the creator of matter. That's an involution. The involution is the real truth, not the evolution. The evolution, in evolution, it is matter that is creating life and life that is creating mind. That's what the scientific view. But that is only a half truth. It's not a full truth. Okay. The consciousness is felt and acts but does not become valid to us in intelligence. We don't realize. Consciousness, we realize consciousness as one of the more higher term, but it's not real to us. Consciousness by itself is not real to us. Our present summit. Mind is the present summit. Mind is here apparently a creation of life. Now note that's in the evolution. Mind seems to be coming out of life. The more the animal becomes intelligent, finally it ends up in man. We know that there is an evolution, and the ape is the precursor of man. And it has some sort of intelligence, but when man comes in, his mind is far superior to that of an ape. Okay? The evolution upwards. But it is really the ulterior, not the ultimate sense of life itself, and what is behind it, and a more conscious formulation of a secret. So, mind is apparently a creation of life. In the evolution, that seems to be the truth. But it is really the ulterior, not the ultimate sense of life. In other words, what Sandhu is saying is, science is thinking that matter is creating life and life is creating mind. And that's why they say mind has come from the ape. It's an evolution. But Sandhu is saying that's not true. The real truth is, mind creates the life and life creates the matter. It's the other way around. It's the involution that is more true than the evolution. In the sense of it, the real truth. Okay? Sense of life itself and what is behind it, a more conscious formulation of it. Mind is an expression, not of life, but of that of which life itself is a less luminous expression. So, what he's saying is, the scientific view that mind is coming out of life is an expression, not of life, is not correct, but of that of which life itself is a less luminous expression. So, mind creates life which is a less luminous expression of itself. And who is creating mind? As you keep going higher and higher, it is Satchidananda. You discover that in Satchidananda there is a real creator of everything below itself. So that's what Sandhu is saying. Now he comes to mind. The next para is mind. So, who will read today? Shilpa is not read for a long time. Do you have the text, Shilpa? She doesn't seem to be here. Yeah, Shilpa, you have to say. Yes?
Yes.
Yeah, please read. Yet mind.
Yes. Reading.
And yet mind also.
And, and yet, mind also our mentally, our thinking, understanding part is not ourself, is not that, not the end or the beginning. It is a highlight thrown from the infinite. The experience of mind as the creator of forms and things and of these forms and things existing in the mind only. The thin subtle basis of idealism is also delusion, a half view taken for the whole, a pale reflected light idealized as the burning body of the sun and its splendor. The idealist vision also does not arrive at the essence of being, does not even touch it, but only an inferior mode of nature. Mind is the dubious outer penumbra of a conscious existence which is not limited by mentality but exceeds it. The method of the traditional way of knowledge, eliminating all those things, arrives at the conception and realization of a pure conscious existence, self-aware, self-blissful, unconditioned by mind and life and body, and to its ultimate positive experience, that is Atman, the self, the original and essential nature of our existence. Here at last there is something centrally true, but in its haste to arrive at it, this knowledge assumes that there is nothing between the thinking mind and the highest. Buddhe Partachu Saha, and shutting its eyes in samadhi, tries to rush through all that actually intervenes without even seeing these great and luminous kingdoms of the spirit. Perhaps it arrives at its object, but only to fall asleep in the infinite. Or if it remains awake, it is in the highest experience of the Supreme into which the self-annuling mind can enter, but not in the Supreme of the Supreme Prapta,
Atmara.
Praptapara. The mind can only be aware of the self in a mentalized spiritual thinness. Only of the mind reflected Sachidananda, the highest truth, the integral self-knowledge, is not to be gained by this self-blinded leap into the absolute, but by patient transit beyond the mind into the truth consciousness, where the infinite can be known, felt, seen, experienced in all the fullness of its unending riches. And there we discover this self that we are to be not only a static, tenuous, vacant Atman, but a great dynamic spirit, individual, universal, and transcendent. That self and spirit cannot be expressed by mind's abstract generalization. All the inspired descriptions of the seer and mystic cannot exhaust its contents and its splendors.
Okay, biggest para, and we'll look at it very carefully. So what he's telling us, the real man is not the body, the real man is not the vital, and the real man is not the mind. Okay? So it is the soul and the self. Okay. That's what he's saying. But on the way, he's explaining many things. And yet, I'm reading the para. Okay. We have quite a lot. We have 20 minutes, so I'm reading the para. And yet, mind also. Now note interestingly that he has kept mind with an M cap. So what does he mean by that? He means the entire range of mind. And the entire range of mind, it is true that from the lower end, it is the third element. And from the higher end, it is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is the fifth one from the top and the third one from the bottom. Matter, life, mind. And from the top it is Sat, Chit, Ananda, supermind and mind. So, it's the fifth one. So, that is what I mean by mind. The whole range of mind. From the lowest, which is the physical mind, to the highest, which is the super mind. So, that is why he is putting in cap. He is not talking about our mind. He is talking about the principle of mind from the highest to the lowest. Then, and yet mind also, our mentality. Now he is talking about our mentality. Our thinking, understanding part is not ourself. It is not that. The T-cap, that means the supreme. He is not using the word God, but it is not that. Not the ending, not the end or the beginning. It's something in the middle. It is, as I said, it is the third from the bottom and the fifth from the top. There is a lot to climb. 5 more steps to climb before it can become the supreme. It is a half-light thrown from the infinite. It's a half-light. The matter is almost total non-light. It's a darkness. Life is a little bit of light. And mind is even more. Mind can get real knowledge. Half-light thrown from the infinite. The experience of mind as a creator of forms and things, and of these forms and things existing in the mind only, the thin, subtle basis of idealism. So, what does it mean by idealism? As opposed to materialism. Idealism is the concept of I think, therefore I am. Okay? That is what Rene Descartes said. The same is going step by step. The scientist thinks that matter is the real ultimate truth. The vitalistic, represented by Henri Bergson, they think that life is the ultimate truth. Now comes Rene Descartes, who thinks, therefore I think, therefore I am. So he thinks that mind is the ultimate truth. Okay? But that is not correct. That's what Chandra is pointing out. He's saying, and these forms and things existing in the mind only, the thin, subtle basis of idealism is also an illusion, a half view taken for the whole. Now, when we read these things, we find it almost funny. How can people think like that? But don't make a mistake. We are based in Sri Aurobindo and we are basing ourselves on Sri Aurobindo's knowledge. But those people are struggling. The whole world is struggling to get the truth. So when science is saying that matter seems to be the ultimate, there is some element of truth in it. Then when life also, slightly better truth. And when you come to mind, there is even better truth. But the real truth is the self. You are the self and the soul. Not body, mind, life. So Sendra is pointing out now that the mind only, the thin, subtle basis of idealism. Okay? The substance of mind is very thin and subtle. Matter is gross substance. Life is slightly less gross, slightly more subtle substance. And mind is thinner, even thinner substance. As you keep going higher and higher, the substance itself becomes thinner and thinner. Okay? The material with which the worlds are made is the substance. The thin, subtle substance of idealism is also a delusion, a half view taken for the whole. A pale, refracted light, idealized as the burning body of the sun and its splendor. Even now, scientists think that consciousness of the mind is the ultimate truth. That's what they think. They admit that consciousness is the ultimate truth. They admit now. Many scientists admit. But they still think it's the mind level, not the supreme. This idealist vision also does not arrive at the essence of being, nor does not even touch it, but only an inferior mode of nature. This is what he is saying. Inferior mode of nature. Mind is the dubious outer penumbra of a conscious existence which is not limited by mentality but exceeds it. Now let's look at the word. What is it? Mind is the dubious, very doubtful. Okay? Outer penumbra. Penumbra is semi-darkness. Umbra, okay, is the French word ombre, means dark. Ombre is shadow. Okay? So penumbra is a semi-shadow, semi-darkness. The mind is a semi-darkness. Why semi? Because some amount of knowledge it is capable of. The mind is a dubious outer penumbra of what? Of a conscious existence. Which is his conscious existence? The self upwards. The self, the higher mind, the living mind, the intuitive mind, overmind, and finally supermind. That's a conscious existence, which is not limited by mentality, but exceeds it. So mind is only the creation of the overmind. Okay, that's what I will say. The method of the traditional way of knowledge, eliminating all these things, arrives at the conception and realization of a pure conscious existence, self-aware, self-blissful, unconditioned by mind, life and body, and to its ultimate positive experience, that is Atman, the self, the original and essential nature of our existence. Now, the big sentence, so let us see what is meaning. The method of the traditional way of knowledge. I told you he is discussing Jnana Yoga. Okay? So the traditional way of knowledge is Jnana Yoga. And what does Jnana Yoga do? It says, I am not the body, I am not the vital, I am not the mind. So what am I? I am pure consciousness. Okay? So it reminds you of Shankara's the famous Nirvana Ashtakam. It is Mano Buddhi Ahamkara Chittani Naham. Okay? I am not the senses, I am not this, I am not that. Then what am I? Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. So that's what the aim of the Jnana Yoga is. Deny the reality of body, life and mind and know that you are the Atman. But there also they make a mistake and they think that that's the ultimate truth. That also is not true. It's only far superior to the material existence, spiritual life, but still that's not the, it can go even more. That's why Swami is talking of the superman. So I'm reading the sentence again. Okay. The method of the traditional way of yoga, eliminating all these things. Which are these things? Matter, life and mind. Body, vital and mind. It eliminates, does not want it. Arrives at the conception and realization of a pure conscious existence, which is self-aware. It is not made aware by others, but it is itself aware. It is self-blissful. At our level, pleasure is caused by something. There is a cause for our pleasure. But this self-consciousness is self-blissful. It does not need a cause to be happy. It is happy by itself. Okay? Automatically, its existence is consciousness and also blissful. Unconditioned by mind, life and body. In other words, mind, life and body cannot throw their influences on the self. It is completely separated. And to its ultimate positive experience, that is, now note the words, and to its ultimate positive experience. What is its? Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga thinks that this is the ultimate experience. What is that? The self, the Atman. Okay? And we have discussed the self very often. We know what it is. It's a consciousness that is featureless, infinite, eternal, static. One. That's the self. It's a consciousness. The original and essential nature of our existence. Here at last, there is something centrally true. Even here it is centrally true, but not ultimately true. Okay? Here at last there is something centrally true, but in its haste to arrive at this knowledge, assumes that there is nothing between the thinking mind and the highest. Buddhe paratastu saha. Buddhe paratastu saha. It is higher than the buddhi. Parata means higher and it is higher than the buddhi. And shutting its eyes in samadhi, tries to rush through all that actually intervenes without even seeing these great and luminous kingdoms of the spirit. What is Srimad saying? What are the great luminous kingdom of spirit? Higher mind, elemental mind, intuitive mind, and overmind. These, the Jnana Yoga is not interested in these. It goes ultimately to the final stage by jumping all these. Whereas Srimad is saying, they are such magnificent words, full of power, of consciousness and riches and splendor and beauty. Why do you want to remove all these things? Enjoy them. That's what Srimad is saying. Actually, it tries to rush through all these, actually intervenes without even seeing the great and luminous kingdom of the Spirit. He's talking about the Jnana Yoga and its rejection of everything below the Supreme Spirit. Perhaps it arrives in its object, but only to fall asleep in the infinite. So, Srimad is saying, Jnana Yoga does reach its aim, but the aim is to fall asleep in the infinite, not come down to the physical world and enjoy the beauty of the physical world. There is so much of beauty, so much of wonder and riches. All that they are falling asleep above. Okay? If that is their aim, then Srimad has no complaint. He says, okay, let them. Perhaps it arrives at its object. Note the word perhaps. Okay? So, Srimad does not agree that that's the final object. Okay? But he's saying that if they think so, very good. Perhaps it arrives at its object, but only to fall asleep in the infinite. Or, if it remains awake, it is the highest experience of the Supreme into which the self-analyzing mind can enter. Now again using the word mind with the name cap. He is meaning right up to the overmind. Higher mind, elemental mind, intuitive mind and overmind are all mind planes. So, but it cancels all these. Self-analyzing mind can enter. But not in the Supreme of the Supreme, Parapara. So the Jnana Yoga reaches a very high level of consciousness, but it is not the highest. That's what Swami is saying. The mind can only be aware of the self in a mentalized spiritual thinness. The self is a mentalized spiritual thinness. What does it mean by thinness? Subtle substance. This self is a very, very subtle substance full of light. But it's not the highest. Only of the mind reflected Satchidananda. Satchidananda is reflecting itself in the mind. It's a reflection. Okay? That is what you realize when you go to the self. You see that you are seeing the truth in a reflection, not the truth itself. In the traditional yoga, they talk of the mind being a mirror. It mirrors the Supreme, but not the Supreme itself by itself. It is not. The mind can only be aware of the self in a mentalized spiritual thinness, not of the mind reflected Satchidananda. The highest truth, the interior self-knowledge, is not to be gained by the self-blinded leap into the Absolute, but by a patient transit beyond the mind, lowercase mind, our mind, into the truth consciousness. Truth consciousness, wherever you use the word truth consciousness, be 100% sure that he is talking of the supermind. Okay? Truth consciousness. Sometimes T is capped, sometimes C also is capped, but as I told you, those capitalization is not very consistent. This is a very minor thing. Okay, so for it. Where the infinite can be known, felt, seen, experienced in all the fullness of its unending riches. There is a truth consciousness. So when you go to the supramental, you can know, you can have knowledge, you can feel. Okay? Feel and see. The senses become divinized. You can actually feel with your, the sense of touch is also very much present in the supermind. Seen also, sight is also there. Experienced also in all the fullness of its unending riches. Note interestingly that all the senses that we have, okay, eyes, ears, nose, tongue and skin, all these, the senses are there at the highest level in the supermind. So you can see the truth without the limitations of the eyes. You can hear the truth. You can also experience, you can touch the truth. You can feel the truth. You can experience in every way. So Srimad discusses this elsewhere. Here he is just saying experience in all the fullness of its unending regions. And there we discover the self that we are to be not only a static, tenuous, vacant Atman, but a great dynamic spirit, individual, universal and transcendent. So, he's saying when you discover that there means in the highest level, we discover this self that we are to be not only a static, there is no action there, huh? We have discussed it many times. The physical world is constant dynamic action. Above the mind, everything is static. Okay? There is no movement felt there at all. Okay? Tenuous. Tenuous means very thin. Tenuous. The substance becomes thin. Vacant Atman. But a great dynamic spirit, individual, universal and transcendent. At the supramental level, you realize that you are not only the Atman, not only the self, but also a great dynamic individual. The third level. The second level is static. The third level can be static as well as dynamic. That's a superman. So if it is dynamic at the supramental level, it is the power to change the things in the lowest level also. Even the body can be changed. That's what symbol. It is not only static. It is not only static, but it is also dynamic. And dynamic at what level? Individual level, universal level, transcendent level. Level 1, individual. Level 2, universal. Level 3, transcendent. It is the power at all levels if you reach the supermind. That self and spirit cannot be expressed by the mind's abstract generalizations. Abstract because the truth that mind realizes is abstract. It is not concrete. It is, as I told you just now, in the supramental planes, you can touch, you can smell, really, you can see, you can hear. But in the mind, it's an abstract generalization in the mental. All the inspired descriptions of the seers and mystics cannot exhaust its content and its value. So whatever you speak of it is absolutely inadequate to describe the supramental. That's what said this. So it's now 8:39. That completes this paragraph. So we don't have time for the next paragraph. So I'll just read out the summary of what we have read just now. Then it will remain in the mind. Although Jnana Yoga uses the mind to start with, to get the knowledge of God, yet it is not the mind that is the self. Like the other parts, body and life, it's an instrument. The mind is an instrument. Like the scaffolding of a building, which has to be dismantled after the completion of the building. So even the mind is rejected in the Jnana Yoga. Body of course is rejected, vital also is rejected, and even the mind is rejected. And you go above the mind. So then the scaffolding of body-mind life is dismantled. Idealism, which is opposed to materialism, considers mind to be the creator of forms, objects in the universe. But this too is a delusion like materialism. It is spirit that creates mind, life and matter. The mind is a pale reflected light misunderstood as the burning body of the sun. You think it's a final. It is not. Now, Sridhar says that traditional Jnana Yoga, this is my summary, I am reading summary to give you the gist of what he is saying. The traditional Jnana Yoga rejects all these things, body, life, mind, and arrives at a consciousness that is self-existent, self-aware, self-blissful, unconditioned by the instruments of the lower nature. The lower nature's impacts don't reach self. So that's why you are absolutely at peace. This consciousness is the self, the Atman, the Brahman. These are the words you can use for the self. Okay? Silent mind experience. The Buddhists call it Nirvana. Self, Atman, Brahman. But if man concludes in haste that the self is the last reality, it is again an error. That's the error that Jnana Yoga makes. Higher than the self is the luminous kingdom of the spirit, the supermind. But if mind is in a hurry to see the last ultimate reality, it falls asleep in the mind, in the infinite of the self, Brahman. Even if the mind is awake, its experience of the self is that of the self-annuling nirvana. Self-annuling nirvana, you fall asleep. There is nothing, no consciousness at all. Static. But this blank nihil is not the last absolute. The ultimate absolute is not a negative annulment. It's a positive fulfillment. It is not the rejection of body, life, mind. It is a divine fulfillment of all the parts of the pure nature. It actually fulfills the body, fulfills the vital and fulfills the mind. What is meant by fulfilling of mind, life, body? The fulfillment of body will be when it is disease free and death free, free from death. That will be the fulfillment of body. What about the fulfillment of mind? It will be pure enjoyment. The vital always wants enjoyment. It will get it, but it is purity. What about the mind? It is seeking knowledge, but is also getting ignorance. The fulfillment of the mind will be pure knowledge, without any darkness, without any ignorance. So this is the fulfillment. And when can you get all this? When you go up to the supramental level. The nihil cancels, abrogates all existence. But the Supreme Spirit fulfills all three and they partake in the splendor of the blissful Spirit. I have gone 3 minutes beyond the time, but this is what he is saying in the paragraph. Okay? So, next time we will come in relation to the universe. Okay? Au revoir everybody. Have a